But just a few months ago, here in Shoreham on Coronation Green, I came up with my soapbox. And I said in the local papers, and we advertised it widely, I think we should have a local regular debate. I think somewhere like this in Shoreham should become the new Speaker's Corner. And so I brought along my soapbox, I stood on my soapbox, I invited people to come along and raise any issues with me, and we can have a debate. I invited people to get on my soapbox and say what they wanted to say as well. Funnily enough, only a couple of handfuls of people actually came along then, in contrast to the scores and scores who have come along to the street surgeries we did and who have written to us over the MP's expenses situation. And in fact, when I was first elected, one pledge I gave was that every month, once a month, somewhere in the constituency, I will be available in a public hall. I would give an account of what had been going on in Parliament for the last month, what I've been up to, and invite anybody to ask any questions they wanted. I did that for a few months, and it soon became clear that actually the only people really coming along were my own councillors and my own Conservative Party members out of a sense of loyalty. So I stopped doing it. I would love to do that again. It's what I like doing, engaging with people. So how can we convert this whole negative interest in politics, this understandable indignation of what's happened in politics over the expenses issue, into something positive, into a real debate about how we can get ordinary people to re-engage with the political process, how people want their politics done, both nationally and locally. Because one thing that worries me above all is that the image of politics has been tarnished for some time. I think that's flowed through to the low turnouts we get in our elections. Only 60% of people turn up to vote at the last election. In the recent European and County Council elections, it was in the mid-30s%. And young people, aged between 18 to 24, the last election, only 39% of them bothered to turn out and vote at that important general election. Barely 1 in 3 bothered to vote, and that's obviously very dangerous and implications for the future. If people don't bother to vote, then that's when the extremists start coming in and moving into that vacuum, and none of us want to see that. So I'm going to continue with my street surgeries. I'm going to continue publishing on my website, as I've said. And in Parliament, there's a lot going on as well. We're about to start debating the Parliamentary Standards Bill, which I think will help the situation. It's going to introduce a new independent standards authority. It's going to bring in a code of conduct for MPs. It's going to mean MPs can be prosecuted for various wrongdoing, as quite rightly they should be. There's the Kelly Commission, which is looking at the whole situation with MPs' pay and expenses and everything, which will report in the autumn too. All that is good, but I think we've got to go further as well. The biggest thing, I think, that can start to restore confidence in the political system is greater transparency. People use the phrase that the best disinfectant is sunlight. So we'll all be publishing our full expenses online in the future, which is good. It's also quite good actually to see the BBC and other public institutions coming up for scrutiny. The fact that the Director General of the BBC is paid 10 times what I'm paid and has some quite lavish expenses too. The public rightly want to see what they're paying for, where taxpayers' money is going, and if it's being used rightly, and if it's not, what they can do to make those changes. But at the end of the day, we can beat up on our institutions, on our politicians as much as we like, but we need to restore respect and confidence in people, for institutions and for people in positions of responsibility and power for the good of democracy and the way we run our country. So how would you like to engage in politics locally and nationally? And I've asked a series of questions, 10 questions as usual. One thing that's been proposed, and I have a deal of support for, is a power of recall. It's very difficult actually to sack an MP at the moment, and in the United States they have a power in many states whereby if an MP has committed some misdemeanour, or somebody in their House of Representatives, then they can have a referendum to recall that MP as to whether they should continue to be an MP or not. Do we think that's a good way ahead to make sure that their MPs are really fully accountable locally. Where do we want power to be shifted to? How much more power do we want to see with local communities? I'm always very frustrated, as are many of my constituents, when they don't want to see some development happening in their town. The local council and councillors don't want to see some development happening in their town, but it gets overturned by appeal to some higher authority. So what's the point of local democracy when that sort of thing happens? How can we make sure that subjects that people want to have debated in Parliament can be debated more? How can we petition Parliament? What changes can we make there? And finally, do we need full reform of the parliamentary system, reform of the House of Lords, which is only halfway being done by this government? How can we make it much more effective so that people have more confidence in that system? Do we need to change the whole voting system? 10 questions here to answer, but this is just part of an ongoing consultation process, so please take time to give me your views, as always, because I really do want them, I really do take notice of them, and they help inform my work. But at the end of the day, this is a two-way process. People can quite rightly and understandably complain about what has gone on in Parliament and with MPs, but you have a responsibility to get up and engage with the process, tell us what you think is wrong, and tell us what you think would correct that system. It's a two-way street. I am here as the representative of local people, which means I need to engage, as I hope I have been over the last 12 years with local people, and we need you to come forward, get engaged with the political process. Don't just complain about it, come and campaign about it as well, and that way hopefully we get change that most people want, and we can start to restore confidence in the political system. Thank you for listening. Please fill in the survey, and as always, let me know your views.